the mini Surron, a fully electric, toy-sized version of an actual Surron. This is fully functional, can self-balance, and has working suspension as well. So I posted a short on my channel a few days ago that showed just some basic clips of this, but I wanted to go a little more in depth on what is probably the most complicated project I ever made. This took several months of work and is really not very feasible. It's kind of ridiculously complicated and it is so finicky that I can almost never use it because it's just broken a lot. But at the same time, it's one of the coolest things I've ever made. So essentially, I got this idea from, I really just like Surrons and mountain bikes in general, and it seemed pretty like a cool idea after I made my normal Surron that was just had suspension to try to make it electric. So I just, searched on the internet for a little while and ended up finding some batteries that were exactly the perfect size. And that's kind of what inspired me to try to make the rest of the bike compatible so that I could use just these simple batteries and very simple materials in general to make a fully functioning Surron. So I'll just give a quick demonstration of what it does. So there's this switch here. These are the batteries, fully kept internally. Everything's kept internally. You don't need anything outside. Everything is kept internally. This is kind of messy. You can jam these wires down, but I just didn't right now. But it has a fully accurate frame. If I flip the switch, the rear wheel will spin up. This will spin fast enough that the gyroscopic force of it will actually keep the bike balancing as long as it's placed on a fairly slippery surface. So the rear wheel can actually spin and do a small burnout sort of while it gets up to speed, and then the bike will actually self-balance, and it works pretty well. It was actually kind of amazing. I did it completely accidentally after deciding to connect the batteries in series, which means that instead of the batteries outputting just 3.7 volts, when connected in series, they output 7.4 volts, so just double. Whereas if you connect the batteries in parallel, it doubles their amperage or capacity, but not their voltage. Voltage is what actually controls the speed of the motor. So that's why I connected them in series. So this has a completely accurate scale frame to a full-size Surron. I used a 3D scanned frame from 3D Scan X on GrabCAD and just modified it so that it could fit the batteries and the motor. So this motor is actually an N20 motor, which is a really common kind of motor for just small robotics uses, but it doesn't have a gearbox on it. It comes with just a shaft. So these were kind of tricky to find, but they work perfectly and get press fit into this housing on the bottom here. And then that's just connected directly to the switch, which is connected to just a female port for a JST 1.25 connector, which is then connected to this series connector, which just connects to two batteries in series. So that's just the main overview of the bike. These are the batteries. So these are 100 milliamp hour cells that run at 3.7 volts. And the reason I took two cells was because it was cheaper and because I just couldn't find a 2S cell in this size. It's easier to get chargers and stuff for 1S cells and then just connect them in series because you don't have to use balancing wires. If you have to use balancing wires, it just makes it more complicated in general. So these work perfectly well for the occasion, and these ones are just wrapped in electrical tape. This is a broken battery, so you can see one of the connectors ended up getting broken off, so it just only has one connector right now, but if I fix that, it would be fully functional. So the mini bike is mainly used parts from that, and then has a kind of ridiculous looking system on the back to go from the motor to the rear wheel with a kind of weird size rubber band. I have not been able to find a rubber band that is exactly this size, besides for some ones that I was able to find. It's larger than a size 16, but not by much. I can't tell exactly how big it is though, and my measuring has not produced the right one. To connect this pulley to the actual motor, there's this small piece of metal here. You can see it. It's a little tricky to see, but this is actually a piece of nickel strip that I spot welded. I have a spot welder, and I spot welded it to the shaft. I just have a portable spot welder from Amazon that costs like $70 for making power banks. So I spot welded that on there, and that makes it so that you can actually push against that. There's a notch in this front pulley that can push against that to actually give it torque. For the rear wheel, it's just pressed into a swing arm and has the pulley here and then the rear wheel attached here, and it actually is open on one side so that the rear wheel can be removed, because I find the swing arm is often what breaks. If it crashes kind of badly, the swing arm is just kind of in a bad spot and it'll just snap in some way. It's very thin. So overall, this was a really interesting build, but it's not really very feasible for me ever to be able to produce, and I haven't seen anyone else online even try to make something like this. I've seen a few model Surrons, but none that actually have working internal components that are in like a normal scale. I've seen fully built like Losi Promoto like electric mini bikes with flywheels inside, but I think this is interesting because it actually uses the rear wheel as the flywheel instead of having a separate system for the flywheel. So that's all. I just wanted to go over some simple aspects of the mini bike, so that's it.